So I'm going to go ahead and get into today's agenda. My name is Kate Watts. I am the Client Services Manager here at Maner, and I will be starting with you a GP Dynamics update, where Maner stands as far as support and what options you have moving forward. Then we're going to go ahead and get into a sneak peek at Sage Intacct with Wes. So that's the three topics we're going to kind of go over, and then I'll do a nice little wrap up at the end for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started with the current status of GP. There's lots and lots of rumors, and there's lots of information that's coming out. Some things seem like it's intended to scare clients into making a decision or making a move. We obviously don't want that. So some people have said, I've heard it's going away. Is that true? GP is alive and well, but Microsoft has made some announcements. The current version of GP is 18.5. That's the latest version or the last version that's going to have any new features that are added. Future releases are going to be just for routine maintenance. That includes security updates, multi-factor authentication kind of updates that as far as the connections to Office 365 or Outlook, those are the updates and the connections that are going to stay. And so that's the only thing really that's coming through. They're not planning on developing any sort of additional features in regards to GP at this point. One of the next questions that a lot of our current clients are asking is, how long will GP be supported? It's a valid question. For clients on the current version of GP, which is the modern lifecycle down here, there's no real end date. However, anything GP 2018 or GP 2018 R2, Microsoft has announced an end date for that support of 2028. However, now this is probably the important part, at least from my perspective in my conversations with clients, is how long is Maner going to be supporting GP? Maner is going to be supporting GP for as long as clients are continuing to use the product. We do, and this is the point that I want to make sure comes across, is we strongly encourage all of our clients to get on the most current version. And that way we only will be installing updates and not upgrades. So updates will continue, and that way your security and everything stays current, and we make sure that there aren't any issues. And one of the next questions that we get often is clients say, I read that Microsoft announced that they're not selling Dynamics GP to new customers. And this is 100% true. As of October 2026, which seems like it's really far out, but we are approaching October 2023 already. But Microsoft will no longer sell Dynamics GP licenses for new customers. 100% true. That has been an announcement that has come through. Now, this doesn't obviously impact existing clients who are using GP. You're going to be able to add new users, add new modules, all those things. Enhancement plans and support plans will remain available. Also, a good note and something to remind you all of, announcements that have come from Microsoft is like a percentage or two increase on the enhancement plans. So there's been a little bit of a price increase on those as well. So I want to kind of roll forward just a little bit. Those are just what's going on with GP and where we stand here at Maner. But the next thing I want to kind of talk about is your options moving forward. Our clients have lots of options moving forward. One of those is staying on GP, and some of you may decide to do that for the foreseeable future. We understand, but we want to obviously make sure that that's the right decision, and we want to help you with that. You can host GP in the cloud, or you guys can move forward to evaluate a new ERP system. And that's part of why we're having this conversation today. A couple of months ago, we had a similar conversation regarding Business Central. So let me go ahead and step forward into that. We have two options that Maner supports for clients moving forward. One of those options is Business Central. The other one is Sage Intacct. We have moved around 24 clients to one of these two options, and both have significant advantages for our clients. And today I am thrilled to be able to provide a sneak peek, or provide a person to provide the sneak peek to Sage Intacct. We have a very strong and diverse group of clients who are on Sage Intacct, and our clients have a lot to say. If you want to speak with or read any of these testimonials, please let us know and we're happy to share. Over on the screen, one of our GP clients and one of my favorite converts is the Heart of West Michigan United Way. And they have done a phenomenal job with the conversion, and they went live July 1st, 2022. You guys can read. And this is just a clip or a snippet of what they had to say about their transition. And there's definitely a lot more where that comes from. So if there's ever someone you want to talk to, we're happy to get you in touch. We have a lot of clients, and obviously from a diverse range, that would love to share their experience with you as well. With all this being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand the reins over to Wes. He is the practice lead for Sage Intacct here at Maner. He is a master at connections between softwares, and that always, and of course, eliminates duplicate data entry. And he is a true Sage Intacct master and one of my favorite people. So Wes, do you want to go ahead and take it from here? I will go ahead and stop sharing.
Yep, sure. Yep. Thank you, Kate.
Perfect.
And thank you for the introduction as well. As Kate just said, my name is Wes Salisbury. I've been implementing folks on Sage Intacct for about 8 years now. And we also have put together some dedicated migration paths for GP clients into Intacct. So the data migration task lift is much easier and can be handled by us, as opposed to maybe necessarily just you exporting stuff and populating it. Because if we can work with you to get access to the database that you're coming from, we have dedicated data pools to retrieve that and move that into Sage Intacct. Which, speaking of which, let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, Kate, just to test, can you see my, oh wait, there we go. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, you're good.
Perfect. Zoom kind of sits it up and pending for a little bit.
Yes.
Perfect. So what I'm in where I'm in right now, this is the Intacct software itself. But one thing I wanted to know is Sage Intacct is a 100% cloud-based software. As a matter of fact, it was born in the cloud. There's never been an on-premise version of Sage Intacct. And I think it was initially launched back in '99, back when cloud software was kind of a novel thing. So they certainly got the, they definitely had some great foresight launching a system in the cloud, even all those years back when personal computers were still kind of a novelty, relative novelty, whatever. But so you can access Sage Intacct from any internet-enabled device as long as it has an internet browser. All you have to do is just have connection to the internet, enter in your password, your company ID, and it'll send a code for multi-factor authentication for new devices, and it takes you to here. So as the testimonial mentioned that Kate had up earlier mentioned that even if you're working remote, doesn't matter if you don't have any special software installed on your computer, all you need is a browser. There's been plenty of times when I've accessed Intacct by way of my phone. So being able to support and get logged into Intacct remotely is super simple for us as well. So pretty much what I have here is this is my main landing page of Sage Intacct. Pretty much, I'm not going to spend that much time on this, but pretty much it's going to give you an area where it talks about the most recent changes, the most recent updates that have been made. As you can see here, or one of the things that Intacct does do is they do quarterly automatic updates where they're consistently adding new features and making updates. So you don't need to go through the process of booking an update or an upgrade. It just happens automatically behind the scenes, and all instances of Intacct run the same version. This is also a homepage where you can get to the Sage Intacct community, where you can communicate with other users of Intacct, and you can get links to some new user help, some fundamentals trainings, and things like that. But since we have limited time, I'm just going to go jump into what I wanted to show. And one of the things I wanted to start off with is dashboards. So I have a bunch of dashboards here. As you can see, I have dashboards built out for the CFO role, the controller role, program managers, grant managers, etc. So all of these dashboards are directly within the Intacct system. There's no need to go out and export, or there's no need to connect any third-party apps to it. Intacct doesn't really have a side software like Management Reporter where you have to build reports outside the system. Intacct has its own built-in report writer, built-in graph creator, built-in dashboard creator as well. So all of these numbers that appear here, these are live. This is live information, and any one of these numbers I can click into to get a further idea behind the details. So without getting too far ahead of myself, as you can see here, I'm in the CFO dashboard. And in this type of dashboard, I have all these different metrics that are important to this role. So I can see this calculation for program efficiency, percentage of fundraising expenses as a share of regular expenses, total revenue for the year, total expenses for the year. And there's also some waterfall charts that break down revenue sources, such as donor contributions, government grants, etc. Tracking pretty much departmental ratios here. What I wanted to show real quick, as you can see, there's a lot of different reports that you can put on here. But even from this super summarized view, I can click into any one of these numbers to get the details behind these numbers. So I see, if I hover over management in general, I can see that management in general had about $1.7 million of expenses for the year. And for management in general, that's 21% of the total share of expenses. So if I click into this little slice of the pie there, it's going to take a moment because I'm out in cornfield country and my internet takes a moment to load. But as you can see here, by clicking into that slice of that graph, it gives me pretty much a miniaturized profit and loss that shows me for management in general. These were all of my personnel expenses. These were all my professional fees, etc. Now, if this was an entire product demo, I'd probably say this about 5 different times. But pretty much anything that's a blue link in Intacct, you can click into. So if I wanted to see my professional fees, or I'm sorry, let's just say my accounting fees, I can click into that, and it's going to give me a listing, a detailed trial balance report, which is essentially, it's the equivalent. This is when you click into an account balance inside of Intacct, it's going to run you the Intacct equivalent of the detailed trial balance from GP. So it's going to show me all of my individual transactions that hit this account. And then I can further click into any one of these, and I can pull up the source transaction that it originated from, as well as any supporting documentation that may be underlying it. So it has taken a moment to spin here. So that is a country internet thing. There we go. So I click into that transaction. I can see that that line originated from this bill that has been paid with check number 485. And if someone would have put a document attachment on this transaction, I'd be able to pull up that original PDF from here. This one in particular doesn't have that. But the reason I'm going through all this is because the reports and the dashboard items are directly inside of Intacct. It's all pulling from live data you can click into and get the details for. So there's no timing differences. You don't have to tunnel through multiple systems to get down to the originating activity. It's all in the system.
So Wes, while we have a brief breath, there are 3 questions that have already come in. The first one I'm going to go ahead and start with actually the last question that just came in because we're already here. But will Maner transfer our management reporter reports to Sage? I know that we tend to build out, if somebody wants multiple reports, we tend to build that out in the implementation stage. But can you elaborate just a little bit on the ease of creation and what your experience is with that?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Kate. So yes, definitely. If there are key reports that you want to make sure are copied over from GP to Intacct, management reported to Intacct, we can certainly build that in as part of our offering that we give you. Pretty much usually the way in which we go about that is you can export your management reporter like row definitions. So if you send us those, we can use those to assist with us building those reports inside of Intacct. But really, the other part of our process is we train you on how to write reports inside of Intacct. And the process of building them inside of Intacct, I'll just go ahead and just show you really quickly. We're not going to have time to go through a full demo of this, but pretty much we build out our actually, you know what? This one isn't a very good example. My apologies. Intacct has its own built-in financial report writer, and pretty much the elements are similar to what you have in Management Reporter. You have rows that you create and then columns that you create. But really, it's just an exercise, and we'll train you on this. Like you create these subtotals of what do we define as personnel expenses, what do we define as professional fees, advertising and promotion, etc. You define these by way of an account range that says this account through this account we consider advertising. Then you just build out all of those categories and then you just reuse these across reports. But to answer your question, as part of the implementation process, we replicate your reports from Management Reporter, and we also train you on how to build them yourselves.
So just to kind of, there was another question that kind of goes along a similar line, and it is, we have documented attachments in GP right now. Will those also transfer? And that's also going to go along. There's a couple more questions. I'm going to kind of read them off so you can kind of figure out which ones you want to go.
Yep.
Another question is, they currently use Smart Connect. How does that still work? And how is security and data storage handled?
Yep, I'll go ahead and answer those in the order in which you gave them to me, Kate.
Perfect.
I have them pulled up on this other screen too.
Perfect.
So in regards to document attachments and GP, to those come over. So that's not necessarily our standard service offering, but we can certainly do that. We can work with you if that's important to you. We can work with you to figure out how many attachments you have. Do you want to bring them in from the beginning of time or just maybe more recent ones? If we can get to those attachments from GP, we can extract that data, then yeah, we can import those over into Intacct. It can be a little involved, so it's not necessarily, we don't automatically slap that on all of our projects, but if you want that, we can do it.
Perfect. And I would elaborate there that we definitely would have a full conversation and a discovery around that, making sure that when you guys make the move or decide to make the move, we know how much data you want to move over, or if you want to, some clients want to cut over. Some clients want to have a year of summary. They still have access to GP data. They don't need to move all of it over. So that's part of a conversation that we would get into with me, and more of a discovery conversation. And I'm happy to do that, obviously. And that'll be part of our wrap up statement at the end. So that's just kind of I wanted to kind of put that in there too. So anyway, go ahead. The next question was regarding Smart Connect.
Yep, absolutely. So Smart Connect, the actual Smart Connect product itself doesn't work on Sage Intacct. However, because of that, we created our own integration tool called Maner. So very powerful tool. We do actually have some GP clients who use it for GP. But pretty much Smart Connect doesn't work with Intacct, but our Maner software does. And it works in a really similar fashion We have these maps where you define like where you're pulling data from, where you're sending it to an Intacct. You can also pull data out from Intacct using Maner Link and send it out to a data lake or wherever you need it to. So though you won't be using Smart Connect, we can replicate all of your integrations using Maner Link and maybe even enhance them, because there's just a lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
That one was very CMH specific. Do you have any? We have a couple of CMHs already. Can you elaborate a little bit? Because I know that they have some very specific needs. Just a smidge,
Yep.
just for like half a minute.
Yep, exactly. So for our clients that are CMHs, pretty much across the board, you're going to have some level of integration with your PCE system. Every CMH calls it something different, but yeah. So every CMH client that we brought over onto Intacct, we've replicated their PCE integration using Maner Link. So it's the same process. It's retrieve file from PCE, send that into Intacct, create claims in Intacct. Those claims get paid out of Intacct, and then the payment information goes back up to PCE. So same process, just the product is a little different.
And then the last one was the security and data storage, which I think pertains to just about everybody on this call.
Yep. Yep. So this can be kind of a branching. There's probably this could definitely lead into a greater conversation here, a broader conversation. But so yeah, everything is stored in the cloud. In order to access Intacct, you do need to. It does enforce strong password protection. So it actually prevents you from using common passwords such as like password. It's going to flag you, but if you try to cheat and use an easy password. And because you use multi-factor authentication, you can use an app or your phone to confirm that, hey, yes, this is indeed who is accessing the system. Now, in regards kind of like deeper on a database perspective, there's probably some slides we can share on some documentation here, Kate. But pretty much, Intacct uses state-of-the-art servers, state-of-the-art servers, and those servers get backed up into geographically diverse areas. So you have a main server where your data is, and that's kind of where you're operating from. But every night, Intacct goes and backs up your data somewhere else, to multiple places, so that if you ever need to restore something back to a certain point, you can do that. And security is really tight, because at the server level, this isn't just like a server in a closet somewhere. There's high security at these on these servers. And yes, so Intacct also needs to clear SOC audits and all the major accounting and security audits as well, which there's some information on their website about that, which we can share if you're interested. But that's my answer.
Yes. And then do you want to showcase a couple more pieces? And then we'll go to the next, we'll answer a couple questions at the end.
Yep, sure. I saw we had another one come in, which I think you've seen as well, but we'll address that in a moment. Yep. So yeah, I mean, really, when it comes to dashboarding, like you can see here, it's you can create all these cool calculated metrics. You can just get account balances here. You can click into these, and you can also see how you're trending. So revenue is probably a little bit better here, but for our total revenue of 12.4 million this year, it's showing that I'm up 1.7 million from last year. That's a good thing. So it appears as a little green flag here. One thing I wanted to talk about really quickly before I go off into other areas of the system, and then we can address some more questions. One of the advantages of Intacct over other systems, and one of the major differences between Intacct and GP, is in place of account segments, Intacct uses these things called dimensions. So in GP, you're going to have your first account segment dash account segment 2, which maybe represents a department, then dash cost center, dash restriction or something like that. Everyone's different, but in GP, you have all these different account segments that you can use. In Intacct, you pretty much take each segment and then you make it its own data object effectively. And the reason why this is powerful is like for this drop down right here, I have departments, right? So in departments, I can say, I want to filter this entire dashboard or this report, and I just want to see the operations department. So instead of seeing everything, I can say, show me operations. Then I click apply, and it's going to redraw all my numbers, and it's going to filter my entire dashboard just for operations. So as you can see here, my total revenue has changed, my expenditures has changed. That little pie chart that gave me a departmental breakdown is now 100% operations. So really and this is just all within the same dashboard. So you can take the same dashboard, filter for different dimensions, and then you can pretty much have access to all of the major metrics you want by department, by grant, by fund, things like that. One other thing I wanted to show you really quickly, since I do see a couple nonprofits on here. If you are grant funded, one of the major strengths of Intacct, and particularly its dimensions, you can use grant as a separate dimension, and you can create, you can create neat reports like this, where you can have a grant position report, and down the rows, you can have a listing of all of your grants that you are currently tracking. And then across the columns here, you can say, this is the award amount, this is the amount that we've been awarded for this grant, this is how much revenue we have for this grant, and then you can pretty much see how much you've drawn against it, and then kind of what you have remaining to draw against and what you have remaining to spend. So even if you're not grant funded, it's still this still illustrates the strength of using dimensions to build simple reports like this, as opposed to something complicated in Management Reporter where you have to read only this segment of the chart of accounts, filter off this other stuff, and all that.
Yes.
So
we do have a couple more questions if you are okay with that, and then we'll go ahead and anything after we get these couple more questions done, we'll go ahead and schedule meetings with everyone. That way we make sure we have a yes, love the dimensions, which is a great comment. We love them too. And a lot of our nonprofits love them, and a lot of our clients who are on grants absolutely love them too. So one of the questions was, and I think I would provide a solution, and I'm curious, Wes, at what your thoughts were. But one of the questions was, we have very large journal entries. We currently copy them from an Excel spreadsheet into GP. Is this function available in Sage? Part of my response would be that maybe we would use a Maner link to grab that document. Okay.
Yeah.
Process. Yeah.
Yep. Great question. There are two options, and this came up recently with another client, so this is fresh for me. So Intacct natively, they don't necessarily have a straight up copy paste like you have in GP. Part of the reason for that is because Intacct is a web page, and that's kind of more difficult to do in that case. But the native way to get big entries into Intacct is just with a spreadsheet import. So Intacct has a spreadsheet import tool where you populate a standardized import template. You go to, in this case, it'd be General Ledger. Then there's a place where you can import transactions. So it's a slightly different process, but you just copy the stuff that you want to bring over, but you put it in a spreadsheet and import it. But what you were alluding to though, most of the time what we would do here though is we would replicate that process using our Maner link integration tool, where it's pretty much you just populate the template that you currently use for GP, for that copy paste function in GP. And then instead of just pasting it into Intacct, you just save that file into Maner link, and then it just runs it in. So, slightly different process, but same result. You take data from here, click it over here, push a button, and then load it.
Perfect. I think there was one more question, and that was that they export a file to our banks for AP checks. Would this be an option for Sage, excuse me? And is there a sample database that they can play with?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and answer that. So pretty much you can export a file to your banks for AP checks for sure. So there is a base kind of check register report inside of Intacct which contains that data. It gives you a listing of like, these are the check numbers that I printed in this month. This is the bank account I'm paying them out of, stuff like that. That would get you what you need. The other thing that I wanted to mention is Intacct has this custom report writer over here. Pretty much what that is the Intacct version of SmartLists inside of GP. So if there's something that Intacct doesn't have out of the box, maybe you need something really specific for a particular purpose. Maybe you're referring to positive pay. You could build a positive pay report really quickly using the custom report writer inside of Intacct. And then, that way you can tailor it to exactly what you need. And, you have options either way. In regards to sample database, that'd probably be something that Kate, we can work on coordinating. If you're serious about checking this out, we have a whole bunch of sales demos we can probably give you access to. But we can have a later conversation about that. But thank you for your interest. Kate and I will be in contact with you regarding that.
Yeah. So I know that we wanted to keep this really close to the 30-minute mark. So Wes, I'm going to go ahead and take over if you can stop sharing. I don't want to like be a boss, but I'm gonna take over.
Okay, you can take it.
I'm gonna take over. So I want to toss this slide up really quickly. And that way you guys can kind of see, kind of what's next is one of the questions that I know a lot of people have at this stage. Okay, we've seen a sneak peek, we're interested, we want to have further conversations, which we're excited to do. So first of all, I want to thank you all for taking the time today to join us. You can reach out to any of the people that are on the screen. Please feel free to screenshot this. We will be sending out this recording. You guys can go back to it if you need to. And we're really excited to have a discovery conversation. That's really the goal, is that we're helping you evaluate, is GP is the right stay? Is Business Central? Is Sage Intacct? And that's an evaluation conversation. And we want to make sure that you guys are feeling confident in the next steps. Part of our conversation today is that Sage Intacct is also running quite a few promotions, and we would love to talk to you about those further. So there's a lot of things coming up, and there's a lot of things to help offset the cost of implementation. So getting in that conversation, and we're able to kind of give you more as soon as we get going with that. So again, my contact information is listed. I have been the one primarily who has done the transitions for GP clients. So I tend to be the first primary contact. If you wanted to talk to Tim Bograkis, you're more than welcome. He is my department head. Or, Wes is on here just to make sure that we, we have some technical support. I could get through Sage Intacct, but I don't know that I can demo it that well. So
yeah. And one thing I'll just throw in there, Kay, I haven't been a GP consultant. I've never been a GP user, but I have migrated a lot of folks from GP onto Intacct. So I have a good amount of experience between like, oh, hey, we used to do this in GP. Can you explain to us exactly how that translation occurs and like what kind of considerations we'd have to consider as part of that migration? So feel free to loop me into questions too.
Perfect. Well, that's all we have for today. I really want to thank you guys. I'm going to check the question box one more time. Yes, we appreciate having you guys too. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful, enjoyable lunch for the rest of your lunch hour. And we look really forward to talking to all of you. Whether it's just a, hey, how's it going? Thank you. That's really great too. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.